Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Training Talk here on Personal Defense Network. I'm Grant Cunningham, just like it says there. And this is the show where we talk about you, about your life, and how to defend it. In the next hour, we're going to explore how you can train and equip yourself to face that worst case scenario and keep you and your family safe from harm. It's, on this show, we don't do religion or politics, and you're not going to hear crazy conspiracy theories or fringe commentary, just reliable, responsible information that you can put to use right away to enhance your personal safety. And I hope you enjoy our approach, our non-bombastic approach to personal defense here on Training Talk. And if you like this show, would you do me a favor? Share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all those places. Uh, I'd sure appreciate it. And, I think they would too. So, welcome. If you're new to the show, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it and get something useful out of it. And if you're returning, hey, thanks for coming back and joining us once again. We have a great guest this evening. My friend Cecil Burch is going to be on here in a little bit, and we're going to talk about martial arts and empty hand defense and all that kind of stuff. Cecil is the master, so stick around for that. That's just going to be in a few minutes. In the meantime, though, we have a few things to talk about. Of course, we are in. First of all, I should say the spring has finally started here in the state of Oregon, and you may notice that my cheeks are a little rosier because I actually managed to get myself sunburnt this last week. Be sure to use sunscreen out there, folks. And as our friend Caleb Causey at Lone Star Medics always says, drink water. That's important too. Mm, delicious and nutritious. Anyhow, everybody's getting out. We've got kids getting out of school. Some of the schools around here have let out already for the summer, and watch out. We're going to see a lot more kids on the streets playing. A lot more new drivers out there driving around, and perhaps not paying all the attention they should. So watch out for that. This is always kind of a dangerous time of the year when schools let out and the kids get out and get on the road and start playing and doing things. So just keep an eye out. Uh, Make sure that your kids understand how to keep themselves safe, how to behave safely, how to play safely, and most importantly, how to drive safely. There's still a lot of kids out there texting and driving, so impress on them the importance of not texting while driving. Anyhow, in addition to schools letting out for spring break, the PDN training tour, the spring training tour, is in full swing. And this year we've had more than 100 courses on the calendar, and there are still a lot of them to come. We're only, I think, maybe halfway through here at the 1st of June. And let's take a look and see what's coming up here. I'm going to share this here. Google has, as they finally brought back, of course, this lower thing, and they've also scrambled all the controls. So I have to no, don't want to do that. That's what I want to do. So let's do that. Let's screen share. All right, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. Everything went black for a minute. So I hope you can still hear me. Hope we've still got connectivity. Uh, Perhaps a little internet glitch happened. Um, so let me. Well, let's see here. Make sure that we got things going again here. Anyway, so let's see here. I was talking about the 2017 PDN Training Tour and some of the great classes that are coming up. And in Cabot, Arkansas, my friend Alessandro Padovani is getting together with John Fulbright, and they're teaching a defensive focus shooting and critical medicine fundamentals class. And you've heard Ale on the show before. Great guy, great instructor, definitely worth checking out for his class. Dallas, Texas, our friend Caleb Causey, on the 24th and 25th of this month, is going to be in Dallas, Texas, teaching his field and tactical medicine conference. So that should be a good one. And Alessandro Pradavani is going to stay in Cabot, Arkansas, on the 25th of this month, teaching extreme close quarters. That's a one-day course. And Rob Pincus is going to be in Leadville, Colorado, teaching combat focus shooting, advanced pistol handling, and on the 26th through the 28th of this month. And I think Leadville, Colorado is the highest elevation shooting range in the United States. I think he told me that once. And then he goes to Gypsum, Colorado on the 29th and 30th of this month to teach combat focused carbine and a 2-person armed defense one-day course. So that's what's coming up on the training tour this in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, a lot of great courses coming up. So get out, train, check the schedule at personaldefensenetwork.com. Click on the training tab, and there's a drop down that you can look at the training tour, the schedule, and all the classes that are there. So be sure to check that out. Lots of great courses coming up from a lot of great, phenomenal instructors. And I think that you'll find something there that will work for you. Anyhow, my special guest tonight is Cecil Burch of Immediate Action Combatives. And interesting enough, I was telling Cecil earlier that I'm surprised I've never had him on the show before. And because I was looking back on my guest list and thinking, I'm sure I've not had Cecil on this show. Cecil is, of course, a Personal Defense Network contributor who now needs to unmute himself.
I didn't want to do it too soon.
Oh, that's fine. Hey, Cecil, thanks for coming on the show.
You bet. Thanks for asking me to be on, dude.
Yeah, it's a good time. You're like my guru when it comes to martial arts, and so it's great to have you on the show live from sunny Arizona.
Yeah.
Are the schools out in your part of the neck of the woods yet?
Yeah, pretty much everybody's done. I think maybe some of the elementary schools, but college and all the high schools are done.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start by letting you talk about yourself for a few minutes. Tell everybody about your background and experience in the world of martial arts. And I know you could probably go for an hour just going down your resume, but give it a shot.
Okay, I started. It's been 37 years ago, going on 38. It was the day after my 16th birthday. I got my driver's license, and I grabbed my best friend and forced him to go with me to the local karate school down the street from our high school, and signed up. And I've been training since then. I started. Since then, I've always been training. I've always had an instructor, a coach, a mentor of some kind. I kind of went through. I liked everything about martial arts. I like the social component. I like the historical, cultural thing. That's all cool. But my driver has always been self-defense, personal protection. Can I use this to protect myself or my loved ones? So that always fueled my drive. So, pre-internet days when all we had were, newsstand magazines and word of mouth. So, I followed whatever Inside Kung Fu and Black Belt and all the magazines said, this was the cool guy art. This was the most deadly art. And I usually would figure out some way to train with whoever was the top guy, designated as the baddest guy on the planet at the time. And I went through a bunch during the, that was, when was that? 1980. So I guess 1980, July of 80. And so all through the 80s and into the 90s, I did most of the Southeast Asian martial arts, Filipino, Indonesian. I did Thai, Japanese, a number of Chinese and Japanese systems. I had instructor creds and certs in a bunch of different systems, knife, stick, all that kind of stuff. About 1989, I got my first taste of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Started doing that in bits and pieces because, it was so hard to find at the time, and spent a lot of time doing savate, which is a French form of kickboxing, which I love that art. It's just very hard on the body, but I love that art. I did that, and then here around 93, 94, a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt opened a gym here in town, and I jumped on and started doing that. I still did all the other stuff at the same time. Jiu-Jitsu wasn't my first love. It was more something I felt like I needed to check the box type thing, rather than anything that I enjoyed about it. It wasn't really about till 2005 that I kind of fell in love with jiu-jitsu and started to see more, instead of just as a thing to do some grappling. It was more than that. It was more, there was more to it at that point. So I still dabble in the other stuff, but probably last 15 years, jiu-jitsu's been, more than anything else. Still keep my hand in the striking stuff, boxing and stuff, but jiu-jitsu been the main thing since then. I've competed a bunch of times in it. I still do it. I'm signed up for the Masters Worlds in August. It's the one title that I don't have. I've been Pan Am, American Nationals, blah blah blah, but I've never been a world champion. So I'm kind of gearing up my training over the summer to focus on that for August. So cool. And then I've been teaching since '87, but I started doing traveling around doing seminars about 2007.
So you've been teaching a long time.
Long time.
I just noticed that Rob Pincus just checked in.
I knew that bald-headed dome just appeared out of nowhere.
What's up? I completely forgot. Grant, you said come join in, and here I am, and I forgot Cecil was hanging out tonight.
Yeah,
you got dramatic lighting, Cecil. You're very excited.
I know. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like special effects. Like I don't have that. I have a coffee maker. I don't.
You're just not as cool as I do. See, if I do it the right way, it looks like a halo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's it's very ecclesiastical. Right? So
I'm rooting for you on the whole World Masters Championship there, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should put together a cheer squad for him.
I just want him to win the damn thing so he'll stop worrying about competition and start teaching more.
No, I can do both. I can do both. I have no problem doing both. I'm a man of many talents, Rob.
I know.
Speaking of teaching, Rob, you're out on the training tour. In fact, we just talked a little bit about the training tour, about some of the great classes that are coming up, and you've got a bunch coming up and a lot of other people. So how's the tour going so far?
It's been great. I actually just sent out an email to all the tour sponsor companies that help us get out to some of the more remote locations. I'm actually doing a small course this week. I did we just did a big instructor development thing up in Wisconsin. That's really exciting. There's going to be some big announcements coming out soon as far as the instructor team that I was up there working with Derek Poole and Jamie Onion and Barrett Kendrick, some of our other people up there in Wisconsin. That was awesome. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. You know, I just got out of Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan, did the Great Lakes Tactical Officers Association thing. It was the one, actually I have two. I have a law enforcement only out your way in Oregon, and I had the one, the 2 days at the one conference that's during the tour this year, law enforcement only in Michigan. But we've had a bunch of sold out classes, a bunch of really busy stuff through the Mid-Atlantic, and then up in the New England, and then a couple small classes like always. And it's the tour sponsors that help us get to those small classes and make that worthwhile for everybody, because then at the small groups, it helps us to build training communities. You know, we go into a new range or a more remote range and get to support the guys that are trying to build a training community in those areas. And it's worked out really well for us, and the sponsors help with that. The other guys, everybody's busy, you know, Seeklander, Caleb Causey, Andrew Bronca, of course, doing a lot of legal stuff. He was on PDN Live with me last week. He's doing his tour classes, his kind of classroom, you know, legal issues surrounding self-defense. That's been great. So it's just Craig Douglas, you know, obviously Cecil and I are good friends with him. He's been doing things. He just ran a course in, I think, Pennsylvania. I saw just recently an arm movement and structures course, which is one of his kind of unique classes that he teaches for people, just, you know, the basic tactics, regardless of whether you're a SWAT guy or a Navy SEAL or somebody trying to find your kids in the house or get out of an active shooter situation. He teaches a great course. So we've been doing that. Cecil has been so busy with competition, and I'm such a goofball during the winter that we didn't get together. He's been on the tour before, and I want you back next year, 2018.
It's my fault for not doing the stuff between all my issues, trying to keep track of little details. I'm almost as bad as you are.
I should, and I know together we're a mess. I should have chased you down.
Exactly.
Because we went back and forth. As far as I knew, you were going to be there. Then I looked up in March, and I was like, "Where's Cecil?"
It was one of those things where just like, oh, didn't I send this? Oh,
yeah. Well, you're here in spirit. You're our grapply strikey guy anyway.
Well, and I know most of the people anyway on.
Oh, you know
all the instructors.
People have asked me, like, why is it? They think we're mad at each other. Like, why isn't Cecil on the tour this year? I'm like, because we're both goofballs. I don't know. You know?
Exactly.
So but yeah, so things are good. I just wanted to come in and say hi. And Grant, as always, you make this training talk thing work twice a month, and it's going great. The tour, I am on day 9 of 12 in a row teaching right now.
Wow.
4 days of either teaching in a classroom on a range or significant travel in a row, spanning like May into June. So it's kind of crazy.
Wow, that that is crazy. There's something I went down through the list of upcoming classes on the tour. You know, some of the more than 100 classes that we've got on the tour this year, and I was talking about a class that you're going to be teaching towards the end of the month in Central City, Iowa, armed defense around vehicles. Can you give us kind of a quick thumbnail about what that's about? Because I know that's a new class.
Yeah, it's a class that we just added last year. It's a class that people have asked about. You know, we integrate some stuff in the vehicle and around the vehicle into our advanced pistol handling course. So we integrate some vehicle stuff with our defensive carbine, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to be in your bedroom, you'll be in a hallway, or you're going to be around a vehicle. And for a lot of the patrol officers that come in, of course, they're going to be in close quarters, probably inside of a structure, or again, around their vehicle. So we've done a lot of things around the vehicle, but usually it's a my car, a rental car, the tour truck, something like that. We don't get to shoot the vehicle very often. So the armed defense around vehicles is the course where we get to shoot the vehicle. And it's almost, I call it more of a science experiment. It's much more of a, you know, it's not a lot of put your plate carrier on, do your dive rolls, bang, 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 you know, shoot cool Instagram video stuff. It's not that kind of course. It really is a science experiment. We spend a lot of time talking about why shooting into, out of, or through vehicles is what I call predictably inconsistent. So we know kind of what's going to happen, but there's always variables. There's anomalies. You know, cars are made of different stuff, made in different ways, and you know, you can shoot 9 bullets into the door and get 9 different cool things to look at. So we shoot a section of the car, then we take the car apart, dissect it. And it's not like you're going to learn, oh, well, if I have a bad guy behind a 1994 Buick, then I know if I shoot 3 inches to the door handle, it'll get through. You know, it's not that kind of thing. It's much more about the randomness of what happens, except for very specific areas. You know, shooting through a windshield, we can make some general predictions. Shooting through glass, make some general predictions. Shooting, you know, you're not going to get through the disc brake on any car. We can kind of show some of these, the disc. We can show some of those things. but not everything, because everything isn't predictable. So we can show people the generalizations and let people understand why we say the car for you is very rarely cover. You have to assume that most parts of the car are only going to be concealment. And for the bad guy, you just basically assume that most of the car is cover and very little of it is concealment, because you can't count on luck. You know, luck counts in the real world, but you can't count on being lucky with a door stopping around coming at you, and you can't count on pushing around through a door to stop a bad guy. So I guess that's kind of sums that class up.
Okay, cool. So, folks, that's going to be in Central City, Iowa, on the 19th and 20th of this month. So if that sounds like a cool class, get on the website on personaldefensenetwork.com, go to the tour schedule, go down to the 19th and 20th of this month, and you'll see that listed there. There's a link that you can go and sign up for it. So be sure to do that because it's a cool course. Great. Rob, thanks for stopping by and saying hi. Guys.
Have fun. Cecil, great to talk to you. Good luck. When is that World's Master? Is that
like August 24th, 25th, 26th, I think.
Where is that one? Is that
Vegas? Vegas Convention Center.
All right, awesome. Well, best of luck.
Thanks, man.
And whether you win or not, I'm really glad that you're out there teaching, doing what you do. I think that's, I support you in your competition, but I love the fact that you teach. And if you ever had to choose one or the other, I certainly hope that you. I believe.
I think I always lean towards teaching. If I had to choose one or the other, I think I lean towards teaching.
We appreciate it. You're one of the best and most articulate communicators that I've worked with. We've got a lot of people that have worked with us and done DVDs and that Surviving the Knockout Game DVD, as well as the applications for jiu-jitsu that we did. Like a lot of good feedback about, Cecil, we don't. This, and you got to remember, this goes back years ago, before you started teaching more and traveling more, and people are kind of like, where can I take a class with that guy? Because he just seems like he really knows what he's talking about, and you really do. So I appreciate you joining Grant tonight and being part of our PDN family.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that very much, dude.
Yeah. You guys take care.
Cool. See you, Rob. All right. Well, thanks for. I'm glad Rob dropped in and said hi. So Cecil, back to the discussion here, and one of the questions is you were describing that because you've done like everything, right? You've got experience and belts and instructor certifications, all kinds of things. Can you give us kind of a thumbnail description about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and what it is?
Essentially, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it's a grappling oriented system that focuses on it's very much the idea, the founders of it very much were small or weaker, and they're always like, how do we beat the stronger, bigger, faster, more athletic person? And one of the ways they saw that they could do it consistently was through grappling, specifically on the ground. You get a guy on the ground, you control the position, you take away a lot of the strength and size advantages. That big 300-pound guy throwing a punch in the air, yeah, you can dodge it, but if you don't dodge it, you're getting hit pretty hard because he's got gravity on the side. But if you're both on the ground, he doesn't have quite the same weight distribution. He doesn't have quite the same ability to apply force as much. So it's a ground oriented system, but it's not to say that that's all there is. That's been the focus, number one, because almost nobody else really does it. And number two, it's the best way to consistently beat bigger, stronger, faster guy. Yes, you can knock him out, but talk about wildly inconsistent. You know what Rob was saying with rounds through cars, that's punching, that's striking. I can hit a guy, I can throw a perfect punch, hit him direct in the face, and I'll knock him out. I can do the same punch the next day on the same guy, hitting the same spot, and he just kind of chuckles and goes, is that all you've got? Whereas with grappling, with the control, I get a controlling position. I dominate, I minimize the things he can do, and I maximize the things I can do. I can do that, and I can replicate that over and over again, even if, again, the guy is bigger, stronger, tougher, faster, meaner, more aggressive, less injured than I am. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the focus is on the ground, but there's definitely the standing grappling component, as well as in the complete system, if you look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a whole, there's striking and there's other kind of things as well, and weapons, defenses, and stuff like that as well.
So this brings to mind I don't know if this is so much a myth as it is. Over the years, I've heard people say things, and remember, I'm not a martial arts guy. I did some Krav, 15 years ago, maybe a little longer. That's about the extent of my martial arts experience. And one of the things that I've always heard people say is that, oh my God, you never want the fight to go to the ground. Some people say, oh my God, all fights go to the ground. And then everybody says, oh, you can't defend yourself on the ground, so you need to get up as fast as you can. Confirm or demolish those sets of myths, if you would.
Well, number one, I hate anything that I hate always and never. You know what I mean? Because those always lead you down the wrong path. I think very much it's always contextualized. It's always, what is the right answer in this situation? The best answer might be going to the ground. I've got a ton of videos, documented real life instances where going to the ground was the best answer, and it helped this person. I have a very close friend of mine. He's one of my shooting mentors down here in Arizona. He's a sheriff's deputy with the county south of me, and he will tell you, he said the only reason he is walking this planet is he took a particular incident. He took the fight to the ground. If he had not, he would be bleeding out in the deserts of Arizona on the highway out in the middle of nowhere. And I have a ton of those. I also have a ton where going to the ground was the worst answer, was the wrong thing to do. So depending, you need, what I always try to get across to people is, you don't have to get as deep into jiu-jitsu as I do. I mean, I love, the competition aspect of it. I love all the stuff about it, but you don't have to go as deep as I do. You don't have to be a black belt, but understand and have some functional ability to defend yourself if the fight does go to the ground, or if that's the best answer. If you're fighting a 6'7", 300-pound guy on PCP, and you just had knee surgery and you're on crutches, I don't care how great a boxer you are. I don't care how great a standing martial artist you are in for a world of hurt. But you know what? You can fight on the ground in that situation and possibly win. So there are times when it's good, times when it's bad. I just think you need to have that in. I hate this cliche. It's stupid. The tools in the toolbox. Stupid cliche. It's awful, and I think it's a cop-out, but there is that idea that you need to have a few tools available to you to make that choice. And not all fights go to the ground. That's BS. It's not true. A significant number do go, but not all. I'm actually working on a research project inspired by my friend Claude Werner, and I've been working on it. It's going on 2 years now because I don't have a lot of free time, and going through the data banks I've got 3 data banks, and 2 of them are like thousands of instances, but I'm actually looking at real world stuff. How many fights actually go to the ground outside of a police officer taking a suspect down to handcuff him? Because that skews the data. So you got to throw that out. And so right now, and I'm 2/3 of the way through my project. I'm not I'm not ready to publish anything. I still got a ways to go, but right now, it's probably somewhere 43 to 45% fights go to the ground. So it's definitely not 95. It's not all, but it's a significant chunk that I think people should understand.
Now I know that you're also familiar with weapons. You're a shooter. You've taken a lot of classes, and there are sort of, I guess, 2 pieces to this question, and we'll start with this one. When someone who is very familiar with self-defense from the standpoint of shooting, or perhaps from the standpoint of using a knife defensively, um, they start looking at the martial arts because they feel that they need something to round out their capabilities. I try not to use toolbox. I think it's more capabilities.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, for certain common events. And so where does that person start to get into the empty hand, unarmed defense? And is would your recommendation be different from someone who says, I'm never going to carry a gun, I'm going to rely completely on my martial arts skills? So what about that?
Yeah, I do tend to change it. If somebody is more likely to carry or has the ability to carry a weapon, versus that person who chooses not to or lives in a place where you can't. I think there's a slightly different thing. I would be much more likely to tell the non-weapon person to spend a little more time on a striking oriented system. Try to learn a little bit more, have a little bit more work in that. The person who is carrying a weapon and that becomes a little bit more useful, I would tend to steer you more right away towards a grappling system, whether it's a standing oriented thing like Greco-Roman wrestling or Western wrestling, or a complete entangled fighting system like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Sambo or Judo. I think the entanglement is, number one, it's much more complex than most people get. It's probably the most complex area of a fight, because moving your elbow a quarter of an inch is literally the difference between life and death at that point, which you don't get in any other area of the fight. If we're in a gunfight at 10 yards and I move my elbow a quarter of an inch, is that really going to have much impact on what we're doing? Probably not. But on the ground, if the guy's on top of me, if I move my elbow incorrectly that quarter of an inch, that might give him the ability to get to a worse position for me, to choke me, to hit me harder, to access his own weapon that I can't stop him. So it requires a little more work. And the other thing about it is I think it's probably the least understood part of self-defense, of a complete self-defense picture. I think very few people really understand how easy it is for somebody to get into an entanglement. I think our mental picture of self-defense is the typical, because we do most of our shooting, right? Typical shooting class, you're at 7 yards on a square range and you're all prepped and you're all ready and you're ready for the up threat, whatever the signal is, and you're ready to go. And that's sort of your Hollywood shootout type. Oh, I have plenty of time to get the gun out and all that kind of stuff. When the reality is criminals are going to use the ruse to get close to you. Hey, buddy, can I use your cell phone? I just need to use it for a second, that kind of, to get close enough. Or you're not paying attention. Face it, we all screw up. Should we all be situationally aware 100% of the time? Sure, but it's not going to happen. Especially if you have kids, if you live in the real world, we screw up at times. And all of a sudden, that guy's right there. Boom, and the first thing you realize you're under threat is he's already hit you on the head. Well, just having that drag race for your gun at that point is pretty much a guaranteed way to get the gun fouled and not out. And in a lot of times, you've just given the gun to him. He might not have been armed, but now he is because he's got yours. So I like people to get an understanding of that as soon as possible. I just had it last night in my class. I had a visitor. He had trained with me before at one point. and we were doing a clinch, some entangled standing clinch work, where the drill was to make enough space to get a weapon out. Well, like everybody else who doesn't do it enough, he's trying to push the other guy away and drag race for that gun. And every single time, the gun's taken by the other guy, or it's jammed in his holster because he can't get it out because the guy's too close. You just don't, if you're not used to it, you don't understand, you know? And the gun is such a powerful talisman. We want it out. Oh, it's there. Oh, I got to get it out. I got to get it out. You know? And again, like grappling, there's a time when going to the ground is the best answer, and there's a time when it's the worst. Well, there's a time going for the gun is the best answer, and there's a time when it's the worst answer. So, you know, we have to think about this. And so I would steer people towards a grappling system, at least to get a taste of it, to understand, and to get used to how crummy it feels to have a guy on top of you and you don't know what to do. You know, the first time you experience that should not be in a life or death assault situation. That's the worst time to try to figure this stuff out.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that the drawing the gun, because one of the things that I've certainly had some experience in is and it annoys me now when I see it, but there are still some people out there who are teaching the shove and shoot thing, you know, where you know, jam your palm into their chest and draw your gun at the same time. And having done this force on force, I know what happens next. You know, I get run over, basically, or my gun gets jammed in the holster, as you put it. And you know, and I'm not a very big guy. You know, if I've got a 300-pound, 6.5 foot tall person against me, and I try the shove and shoot, I'm going to hit them about their belly button, and it's just not going to do anything. Yep. And so it sort of, and I want to tell people that, gosh, you know, you don't understand that sometimes going for the gun is not the best answer. You know, you need to either control the other person or make enough room to be able to do that without getting fouled. And they just kind of look at you like deer in the headlights and go back to the shove and shoot thing or speed rock.
Because it's easy to teach that. It's easy to teach the shove and shoot or the speed rock or whatever dumb answer there is, because it's easy to do. And then we feel good as instructors that we've, you know, I think sometimes you don't want to send that student out to go, hey, here's the stuff we're working this weekend. There's all this other stuff that you have to do too, and I can't show that to you either in this class or that's outside of my lane. So you should go see this guy, or you should do this, you should do that. And I think as instructors, it becomes very insidious to go, no, I can take care of everything. Just come to me. I can fix all your problems. Come to me because I'm a genius at this stuff. And I think that's a really dangerous proposition for the student, because this stuff is so vast. This stuff is so complex that none of us have all the answers. It's just, I don't care who you are, I don't care your level of experience, you don't have all the answers. And so you need to look at this, you know, look at beyond that. And then plus the guys who are teaching that kind of thing, you know, the shove and shoot, the speed rock. Okay, cool. You think that's a good thing? You're ready to defend it? Awesome. Let's do force on force. I've got UTMs. I got helmets. I'll do it anytime anybody wants to. Come to any of my courses. I have no problem. Let's work it. Let's work the problem. If you can show me that I'm wrong and that you have a better way, awesome. Right. I'll adopt it. But you got to show it to me, because I've been doing this for a very long time. You know, the one advantage that martial arts, especially the combat sports, has over the gun world is that it's much easier for us to actually test the stuff out. You know, if you say, hey, if somebody grabs your wrist, all you have to do this is to release it. And you go, okay, here, I'm holding your wrist. How come you're not escaping? Well, I guess your stuff doesn't work. Whereas in the shooting world, you know, up until fairly recently, that's not been something that is easily done. You know, fortunately now it's easier, but still not everybody has UTMs. Not everybody has Sims guns, you know. Even with airsoft, I think airsoft sometimes is, I don't know if airsoft is always is a good way to test sometimes, you know, because the gun doesn't actually feel the same and doesn't always shoot the same, and you know, you can start playing toys with it. But UTM sims, I'm sorry, I've been shot with them a lot, and they suck. You don't get acclimated to that; it still sucks.
It always hurts.
Yeah, it always hurts.
Yeah, and I admit to being a bit of a wimp, but yeah, they always hurt.
Me too.
I want to take a quick break for a second and talk about something really quickly, and then we'll get right back to the discussion. And I want to talk to everybody for just a second about premium membership here at Personal Defense Network. Now, of course, you know all about all the free videos we've got and all the great articles and everything here on the public side of Personal Defense Network. But we also have a membership side, the premium side of Personal Defense Network. And that's where you can find all of the long form video courses that we do, DVD length videos. And the reason I bring this up, Cecil, is because you've got a bunch of videos on the premium side of Personal Defense Network. There's a great one that I've watched about dealing with the knockout game and some strategies for doing that. And I actually have got out and practiced those.
Okay.
I paid attention. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about this from experts like Cecil, you can find these on the premium side of Personal Defense Network. Now, it's usually $39.95 a year to join. It's worth every penny. They're just, like I said, just one of the DVD length courses that is there pays for the entire membership. But I've got a deal for you. If you want to check it out, you can get your first full year of premium membership, not limited premium, but your first full year of premium membership for only $10. So you can get in, check out some of these videos that the video courses that Cecil has got here at Personal Defense Network, and check those out. And of course, all the other great video courses that are there. So how do you get this, you ask? Well, when you sign up for a premium membership, and you'll find links all over the site to sign up. There's a link, if you're watching this on the show page at Personal Defense Network, there's a link on the show page. You can just click on that and sign up. And when you get to checkout, there will be a discount code or a coupon code box. I don't remember which they call it. And you just put in this: Grant 10, GRANT, the number 1, the number 0, all one word, Grant 10. Put that into the box, and that will get you your first year of premium membership at Personal Defense Network for only $10. It's a great way to get in and see all the great stuff we have, and I think you'll be impressed with it. I've been a premium member since we started it, and I haven't seen everything that's there. I have watched Cecil's videos quite a few times though. So check that out. Premium membership for only $10. Grant 10, GRANT, the number 1, the number 0, all one word, in the coupon code box at checkout, and they'll get you your first year for $10. So, so back to the discussion, Cecil, and thank you for hanging on, because it was great. Like I said, I watched those premium videos over and over again. So there's something that you said, and there are actually two things that you said. I'll hit both of them if we have enough time. But you mentioned that you would, for someone who was going to rely on martial arts as their primary means of defense, you suggested that you would steer them towards those arts which are heavy on the striking aspects. And can you give us an idea of which ones those might be for those of us who really don't know the world?
Usually I kind of gravitate towards the what people call the combat sports: boxing, Muay Thai, Savate, MMA, because my preferred way of deciding is this going to work or not is you got to do it. You actually have to do it. And in those arts, you actually punch people in the head. You actually get punched in the head, which from the standpoint of pain, it's not fun, but it does tell you, hey, you know what? This is going to work. You don't have to rely, 300 years ago in a village in Southeast Asia, this was used by this magic guru to wipe out 40 warriors. So this technique works, or this this was used to kill Nazi sentries in World War II. Okay, great. That's awesome. And all that stuff might be true, but that doesn't help me know that I can pull it off myself and it will work for me. Whereas, putting some gloves on, some hand wraps, hitting focus mitts, hitting the heavy bag, hitting and sparring another person tells me I can do this. There's some other good ones too. Some of the more traditional systems like Kyokushin karate, they kind of do that same thing as well. They've got, let's actually hit. But I generally steer people towards the combat sports. And then the other part about that is, if you're not going to have weapons and you're not going to have a firearm, a knife, a stick, pepper spray, whatever, striking needs to be an important part of your arsenal. So I steer people that way initially. Plus, the other thing is that's easier to learn. You don't have to spend 10 years boxing. You don't have to spend a lot of time. You spend a year in a really good boxing gym under a good coach, a good Muay Thai system, a good Sabat coach. A year, you will have 85% of the stuff you're ever going to need out of it. So I kind of like that, whereas with jiu-jitsu, to really get that 85, 95 percentile, you're looking at 3 to 5 years of training. Or not jiu-jitsu, any grappling system, because it is so complex. There is so much to it. It does take more work. So if you go, hey, I'm going to knock out the striking part, I'm going to have something I can use, learn to punch somebody, learn to take a punch, because that's not a particularly talked about thing, but it's important. The last thing you want to do is the first time you get punched, boom, and that ends everything. It's not necessarily inoculation, but you kind of get used to it. Okay, I've been hit. It sucks. I just lost some teeth. Oh, there goes my, I'm so pretty. The money maker is all messed up. For me, this is really important, obviously. There's a reason that my nose is not shaped like a normal human nose anymore from, getting punched. But you got to get used to that, at least have an understanding of it. Like I said, the first time you want to get punched is not when Mr. Mugger, clocks you from behind at the ATM. That's not the first time you want to feel pain. So you get that, you knock it out, 6 months to a year, 2 days a week, 3 days a week under good training like that. Boom, you've got a really good base. And then maybe start looking at the entanglement. Then start looking at a grappling system where you have to go a little bit heavier, a little bit deeper, but you've got something. You've got at least something you can rely fairly soon. As opposed, you can get decent at jiu-jitsu fairly quickly, but usually what you get good at more is not losing. Does that make sense? Not necessarily in 6 months, you're going to be able to choke everybody out and armbar people and throw people. But in 6 months, you're going to be able to defend yourself pretty well in an entanglement. Even from bigger, stronger, tougher, faster guys, even from people who are technically better than you, you get used to at least, all right, I haven't lost yet. I'm still in the fight. That's what I always teach. Our first rule is don't lose. Don't lose the fight. Don't do anything stupid. Don't start swinging for the fences, hoping that you knock out the guy. Meanwhile, he goes, boop, and knocks you with one punch and you're knocked out, right? Don't rush at the guy, try to take him to the ground while he puts you in a guillotine choke and chokes you out, right? Don't lose. And so in jiu-jitsu, you get really good at that very quickly. The offense sometimes takes a little bit longer.
Okay. In fact, I'm glad you broached that subject, because one of the questions that came to mind was, of course, being Americans, we always want the quick results, right?
Sure.
Which is why I think so many people immediately decide if they need to defend themselves, they're going to buy a gun, even when that isn't the right answer. And so, the boxing and the question about, well, in that entanglement situation, was there a way to get up to speed quickly and at least give you something to do? And I like your explanation of that, because I think that you're right. That we often don't talk about that aspect of at least learning what it's like to lose, to have somebody else, somebody that is bigger and stronger. And I think that in itself has a lot of value for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm actually kind of surprised that you mentioned boxing. When you think of martial arts, you really don't think of boxing, and I don't know why, but I certainly don't think of boxing as a martial art. I think of course, all the Oriental and perhaps South American arts. So it's interesting that you mentioned boxing.
Boxing and wrestling are the two original martial arts.
Okay.
They predate everything. They literally predate any Asian martial art, anything. Boxing and wrestling, going back to Egypt, the ancient Hellenistic world. It was boxing and wrestling were the foundations of everything that followed after that.
Huh. I never thought about it in that way, but I get your point. There's something that I want to ask you, and it sort of ties in with that. One of the I guess it's a criticism, but it's a combination of sort of criticism and perhaps misunderstanding. But I see a lot of advertisements for systems, okay, and the ones that I mean, and that talk about, well, this is strictly fighting, defeating your enemy. It's not sport. It's not sporting or intended for sport competition at all. And so these are naturally better. Can you talk to that about this idea that a lot of the traditional martial arts have devolved into mere sporting contests, and they're not used for self-defense anymore?
Yeah, I mean, some systems can easily go that way where they're not really living in the real world, but anything that's functional, anything that has some functionality, whether it's a sport or not, it's still the same stuff. Like everybody at any time, because it even comes up in the jiu-jitsu community. You've got the people who are very heavy into competition, and then you've got the people who aren't. And a lot of times those people will try to convince you that their more self-defense oriented jiu-jitsu is different and superior because it's different competition stuff. But every time I talk to somebody about that, I always ask, all right, what is the difference between competition and self-defense application? What's the difference in the physical application and execution of the movement? And they go, well, there's no rules. No. That has nothing to do with the physical application of the movement. What is the difference? Well, you start playing for points. No. Again, we're talking contextualized and situations and strategy and tact. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the physical movement. And what it boils down to is all those things, like boxing, for example. It's a sport. You put gloves on and there's this and this and there's rules and it's whatever. But you watch people fight. What are they doing? They're swinging closed fist punches that looks like awful boxing. Well, because that's how people fight. And all boxing is the highest expression of that movement. You want to learn to punch really hard, really well, really fast? Boxing does it better than anybody else. That's why everybody who tries to actually do it, they look like boxing at some point. Every martial art that actually fights always looks somewhat like boxing. Because the movement are the most efficient usage of how to use your body to hit another human being. Same with jiu-jitsu. If I'm executing an armbar in a competition, it is no different than when I'm executing an armbar in the street. It's the same exact movement. So, and the other thing about competition versus self-defense, especially when you get the combatives type, martial art type guys, the tactical guys, oh yeah, our stuff's for the street. You go, okay. So again, it comes back to, well, that move that you say is so awesome, this deadly street move. How do you know it works? Well, we practice it. How do you practice it? Do you actually gouge out your partner's eyes? Well, no. Well, but isn't that a rule? That's a rule in training. You have the same rules in competition, because you can't gouge your partner, because you're going to have one partner once and you'll never have another partner because you've just gouged out his eyes and nobody will ever train with you. I can't kick a guy in the, genitals in training because nobody will train with you. So you pull your strikes, or you're wearing a cup, or you hit, the inner thigh. Again, rules. So all these things have everything's got rules in training. There's no different. Where we have the problem is we have to make sure we're contextualizing this properly in the right situation. Okay, how do I use this when I'm suddenly attacked in the parking lot of the shopping mall by surprise? What's the best answer? Okay, well, maybe pull a gun. Do this, maybe do this. That's it. It's not whether I'm going to gouge out his eyes, whether I'm going to punch him with a closed fist, or whether I'm going to armbar him. That's irrelevant. It's being able to use it in the moment that I need to use it. That's the difference, not sport, competition versus street stuff. Again, the physical movements are the same. How you practice them are the same. I don't want to talk about, intent. Oh, my intent with this move is to kill him. Okay. Well, you know what? My intent is to jump off that 5-story building, flap my arms really wildly and fly. Intent, is done. It's what we can actually do that I'm most concerned with. And that's why, again, that's why I aim towards the combat sports as my backbone of my personal protection fighting system, is because I know what I can do. I choke people. I've been choked out. I've been armbarred. I've armbarred people. I've punched people. I've slammed people, ballistically into the ground really, really hard. And I've had that done to me really, really hard. That's why this shoulder has been dislocated. This one is still a type 3 separation with a partially torn labrum from being slammed into the ground really hard. But that stuff, I can do it, and I've had it done to me, so I know it works. There's no pontificating. There's no faith, right? I don't have to have faith that when I Uchimata a guy and I get his head pointing to the ground and the soles of his feet looking up at the sky, when he goes down, I know he's going to hit really, really hard. There's no faith. I don't have, So the whole competition versus self-defense thing just really bugs me. It's a waste of training time is what it is.
Okay. Gosh, I've got like a million more questions to ask, but unfortunately we are literally out of time.
Man, that went fast.
That went fast. And again, like I said, there's so many things in my head I don't want to ask you. And so I'm hoping that I can get you on the show again here real soon so we can continue the discussion.
Sure, anytime. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh man,
yeah,
I'll tell you, it's great. I'm sitting here typing notes and all kinds of things. So tell people how they can get in touch with you and find out about your classes.
Probably the best way, you can either hit me on my website is iacombatives.com, and I've got a blog, and I put my seminar schedule up, and I try to write articles there. I try to at least put up something, a video every now and then. Try to keep people at least get some info out. You can also look on my Facebook page, Immediate Action Combatives. That's my brand, I guess you can say. So my business page is Immediate Action Combatives on Facebook, and again, I try to do the same thing. They can get through me either way, and you can message me or email me through either of those links if you ask questions or need help for something. I love talking about this kind of stuff. If people need pointers, I'm cool with talking about it.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, and folks, be sure and sign up for his blog. I follow it regularly, and I watch the videos he puts up. And there are very few videos in this world that I will watch, but I will watch every one of Cecil's.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're just that good. So, so very quickly before we sign off here, folks, our next show is 2 weeks from tonight, the 15th of June. Same time, same bat channel, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and you can figure it out what it is if you're Mountain or Central. So be sure to join us in 2 weeks for our next show. Don't forget, if you have any questions. I noticed that when our system rebooted here, my little thing went away, but I just happen to have a piece of paper. You can always get me at grant@grantcunningham.com. Send me your questions, your show ideas. Love to get those, and sometimes we get a chance to answer them here. Of course, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and you can follow my blog, subscribe to my blog. I put out a lot of information there. And you can also check my training schedule. In fact, I'm going to be in Cecil's hometown here in November 11th and 12th, teaching my threat-centered revolver course. So check that out. That's on the schedule as well. Don't forget, premium membership here at Personal Defense Network is $10 for your first year with the code GRANT10, GRANT, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. Put that in, get your first year for $10. And check out all of the great classes that are still coming up on the PDN training tour for this year. There's just a ton of them still coming up. Some really great ones. I wish I had the time to go out and take some of those, because there's some really cool classes. So please join us next time on the 15th of this month, 2 weeks from tonight, for another episode of Training Talk. And until then, stay safe. Good night.